As I've discussed in the past, a fighter's costume is a big deal in a fighting game. Sure, their playstyle and moveset are the most important elements, but it doesn't mean we can't appreciate some good aesthetics. And while some characters are quite vain and care too much about how they look, characters that wear a mask generally don't want you to know too much about their appearance. It could be to protect their identity, guard their face, or honor their tradition as a fighter because El Toro Fuerte never removes his mask. Or maybe it's just the perfect complement to their outfit and nothing more. Regardless, we'll be looking at the fighting game characters with the coolest and most iconic masks. Besides judging these characters on pure aesthetic, we'll be looking at their moveset and backstory, which may even explain why they wear the mask. And joining me in this video, requested by popular demand to return as a co-host, is my mom.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be back to talk about the best fighting game characters incognito.
Since masks are a somewhat common costume option, we'll be limiting this list to one character per series of origin, with the SNK fighting games each counting as a separate franchise. Now, let's uncover our top 10 masked fighting game characters. Number 10, Faust from Guilty Gear. Faust was once known as Dr. Baldhead, named after his copious amounts of hair. Wait, wrong description. Named after his lack of hair. He was once an honorable surgeon who lost his grip on reality after being traumatized by one of his patients' deaths. After committing a series of murders on people that he thought were patients, he came to his senses and was horrified by his actions. From then onwards, he decided to atone for his past by helping people to the best of his ability, but he knew he couldn't have his image out there after committing all those atrocities. Thinking quickly, he took a standard paper bag, poked an eye hole in it, and called it a perfect disguise. Since he was treated as wacky comic relief in his moveset for Guilty Gear XX and XR, it fit his tone. Plus, he didn't even have to spend time or money perfecting his style. Get some groceries and you have yourself a new set of masks.
What if the paper bag rips? His identity will be out there.
Well, considering his attacks involve reality-breaking tricks, one of which includes him throwing his head with the bag still on it and it turns into a bomb, I don't think this bag simply tears like standard paper. Despite Faust getting a lot more creepy in Guilty Gear Strive, the paper bag is the consistent fun thing about him.
He could have used a little more imagination when coming up with a disguise. Why didn't he add a face to the mask? Is it reusable?
I don't know, the fact that he went the route of someone like a disgruntled sports fan or Shia LaBeouf makes this mask more endearing to me, though he probably could have drawn something on it if he wanted to. I'm sure he's good at drawing faces. I mean, he's good at reconstructing them. Number 9, Raiden from Fatal Fury. Raiden is based on wrestler Big Van Vader, both with and without the mask. Raiden splits his time between mask and no mask in his appearances, and there's a story to it. In the first Fatal Fury game, he was one of final boss Geese Howard's main henchmen, previously known for being a heel in the wrestling scene. However, being the bad guy was only meant as an act for the ring. The whole drug cartel thing wasn't for him, so he decided to go with the face turn, nickname himself Big Bear, and be a nice guy overall. He's not really looking to take down evil now, but since all the people that run these tournaments tend to be malicious, Big Bear comes out looking like a hero. Though after the rest of his main series Fatal Fury appearances, he decided to return to the mask. The reason stated in King of Fighters 13 was he wanted to go back to his glory days of being in the ring. I guess when he's wearing that mask just to put on a show, there's no harm in doing so when he's not assisting a criminal. Plus, when he wants to be antagonistic, he can just make the excuse that it's all a part of the act, it's just a prank. The Raiden persona was also brought back between his Fatal Fury and King of Fighters appearances in the Capcom vs SNK crossovers and Fatal Fury Wild Ambition. He still had the beard from his Big Bear persona in these appearances, so you get the best of both. While I like the clean and almost sinister look of shaven Raiden, his intros in the Capcom vs SNK games display so much personality. Where did this man get a microphone? I'm pretty sure Armika secretly learned some of her style from him. As for the mask, it's pretty cool. It looked the best to me in King of Fighters 13, when the red was more prominent than it was in the past, and of course he has the lightning bolt on it to go with his name. Though the real shock is fighting him in the arena. He hits like a truck, the 18-wheeler kind.
He can crack more than just nuts with those punches.
And he finds plenty of ways to use all of his weight. He weighs 210 kilos or 463 pounds, so he can break bones easily using his body and a bit of gravity. Or he can just rush forward and barrel through anything. I wonder if he had a past career as a football player. Brian Battler, watch out.
You don't need dynamite with his power. He could blast through anything.
And if brute force doesn't work, he has a secret technique with his poison breath, but I'm pretty sure that's just him spitting on you. Gross.
His mask should really cover his whole face if he's gonna spit.
I suppose that's why he's a heel most of the time. Regardless, Raiden has the pure power to knock out foes by simply walking towards them, and the mask makes sure he looks good while doing it. Number 8, Tam Tam from Samurai Showdown. Tam Tam's mask is known as the Mask of the Gods to his village, so he only wears it during times of crisis, which just happens to be, well, anytime you pick him on the character select screen, but in the story, it's when the main villain threatens the village. The mask has gone through some redesigns over the years, but the consistent parts of it are that it's red, it's got pointy teeth, and it's angry. Oh, so angry. It's unclear if the mask gives him special powers or if Tam Tam is just magic, but the mask is clearly moving during some of his attacks, so I'm giving the mask the credit here. Now, I wouldn't doubt that Tam Tam can breathe fire on his own, but once that mask starts biting people with its own teeth, I understand that it has utility beyond just being intimidating. He doesn't even need the mask for scaring purposes. His savage moves and massive blade show why he's one to be feared.
That sword's better than a Ginzu knife.
And if all else fails, he has some extra skeletal-themed projectiles.
Where does he get all those skulls? Should I be nervous?
Nah, don't worry. He just gets them from, well, kinda murdering things. Classic Tam Tam. Number 7, Taki from Soul Calibur. Taki's had a few mask designs ever since her debut in the first game, but my favorite has to be the demon mask that she donned in Soul Calibur 3 and 6. The first one was still nice. It had a nose indent and the mouth painting made her face look like an Arbok, but when that dragon mask came into the picture in Soul Calibur 3, I wanted it in every Taki costume. I don't think there's any utility to the mask, nor is it hiding her face well with all those gaps, so I'm just going to assume that she's wearing it to look cool. Well, cooler than she already is. The mask could also be a representation of the symbol of her Fuma ninja clan, being the demonic version of their leader, Toki, or maybe there's even an intimidation factor there.
She looks like she's gonna take a bite out of her opponent with that mask. Real fierce.
She certainly backs up the intense nature of her mask with her fighting style. Using her speed, both with her feet and her weapon, she's great at mixing up her foe just when they thought it was okay to block.
And those flips, I'm getting dizzy just watching. Imagine her opponent.
Even if the mask itself is harmless, Taki shows her bite with her blade. And sometimes she really has to pick up the slack for that mask since it's a breakable piece of armor in battle. What I'm getting at is Voldo broke off her mask every time when recording my footage here, so enjoy maskless Taki to end the segment.
This is as far as you go. I'll decimate you. You'll be lost to history. This just shows how much better I am than you.
Number 6, El Blaze from Virtua Fighter. This man may be named after a flame, but that mask is super cool. He has fire on it, which contrasts nicely with the black. Some of the fire is also silver to give it that extra flair. The face piece also looks awesome. It has wings like a bird with a jewel in the middle. It's like a smaller mask on top of his bigger mask. Maskception. On the topic of birds, L-Blaze could go flying if he wanted to. Don't blink or else he'll take to the sky and you'll be his landing strip. He has a very accurate lucha libre fighting style, so he can do plenty of flips and throws from the air. He also has an advantage on the ground with his speed. I'd say he has tricks, but he does everything right in front of your eyes. You just don't have time to react.
With his fancy footwork and ornate mask, he'd make a great competitor on Dancing with the Stars. I'd be his partner.
As for his backstory, well, it's a Virtua Fighter 5 story, so we don't really know anything about him. He wants to fight the renowned wrestler Wolf Hawkfield, and that's about it. But hey, who needs a fancy backstory when you have the extreme camp of L-Blaze's in-game lines? If winning wasn't already good enough, you get to enjoy his wonderful reactions to how great he thinks he is.
My body is an unstoppable weapon.
Number 5, Mr. Karate from Art of Fighting. I discussed Mr. Karate's backstory in great detail on my karate fighting game characters list, but to summarize what I said there, the mask plays a major role. Takuma Sakazaki's family was targeted by an underground drug cartel when Takuma started taking down their members. Their boss, Geese Howard, different game, same tactics, told Takuma his family would be safe if Takuma worked for him. Takuma begrudgingly accepted to protect his family, but he wanted to conceal his identity for the sake of his honor and his loved ones. He donned a Tengu mask and called himself Mr. Karate. Hey, if you know what you're good at, you might as well put it in your alias. I'm not sure if he just had this Tengu mask lying around, but once he was free from Geese, he decided to have a little fun with it. Now that his family was safe, in his later King of Fighters and crossover game appearances, he wore the mask and took the name once again for leisure. When he was playable, he was generally serious, but when he was just in arcade mode endings, he was being the goofy yet endearing master with a mask that was ridiculous when it wanted to be.
Pinocchio on steroids if he was older. Does his nose grow every time he defeats an enemy?
The mask more changes its look depending on his tone, though he definitely has defeated many opponents considering his moves. He wasn't just the final boss of the first Art of Fighting because his mask was intimidating, his karate skills are hard to match. Flying lunge kicks, one-handed rapid punches, energy projectiles that can turn invisible, I guess the next step for him are the rest of his attacks turning invisible. Then again, with how fast he moves when he unleashes all his power at once, he's basically unseen to the human eye. Number 4, Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is full of masks, which is expected from a game that used the same few digitized actors for ninja assassins to create more ninja assassins with different color palettes and moves. Though, once we left the realm of the original trilogy, there was more variety to the masks of the original palette swap gang. While we got great designs from everyone, I feel Scorpion got the most love with all the masks he received over the years, plus his mask is important to his character. Many characters in the franchise wear a mask for their own reasons, but before his revival in Mortal Kombat X, Scorpion needed his mask on to conceal his identity of being a wretched ghost of the Netherrealm. Once he takes off that mask, he reveals his true form of a dead guy, which he mostly just saves for the big finale when he spits hot fire on the opponent to finish them off.
Scorpion wins. Fatality.
There's also some sorcery involved when the mask is on, since he appears to be human. He fits into society since the mask creates an illusion of skin where his face would be exposed, though they could not do anything about the eyes. You can still tell something is off when you look into his pupilless gaze.
I don't know which is more terrifying, him with his mask on or creepy skull face breathing fire with it off. Either way, I'd have nightmares thinking about it.
The only other character that wears a mask to conceal something that truly no one can know about is my favorite character, Melina, hiding her horrifying and/or beautiful teeth. Due to both of their masked secrets, they tend to get paired up a lot.
You know, I wore my old outfit just for you.
Ooh, vintage. That's hot.
You're hot. How about a kiss, baby?
There are so many good Scorpion mask designs, but the definitive one to me is the Mortal Kombat 9 default mask. The design on it had scorpion legs, so it was the first time I felt like this animal was integrated into his main look. Yes, he turned into a scorpion for his Mortal Kombat 4 fatality, but I feel like the metaphor of his name was finally realized with this mask. All scorpion wordplay when describing him was appropriate now more than ever.
Is his sting worse than his punch?
His sting is his punch, or maybe his sting is his blade. Oh, his sting could be his spear. Fine, he has a lot of stings. That being said, his spear on the chain is his true metaphorical sting. You can't deny his signature move with that iconic line that he yells while doing it, being... Wait, wrong line. Redo it. There we go. Perfect.
Scorpion win.
Number 3, Lisa Hamilton, aka La Mariposa from Dead or Alive. Living in the Dead or Alive universe means you're going to have a lot of costumes, and she gets this spot for the sheer amount of masks that she has and the style that she shows off with each one. I can't just pick one as the best, they're all great in their own right and come in a variety of colors.
I like the way she changes her mask to match her costume. That's something I would do if I was a fighter and had her body.
The most consistent thing about her mask is they always have that wing-shaped piece around the eyes. It makes sense since her name is Spanish for butterfly. And just like the butterfly and El Blaze, with her lucha libre fighting style, she can take flight. I love her mid-air leg grabs.
I love all her fancy footwork. I wish I could kick that high.
My favorite mask is probably the one from her second costume in Dead or Alive 5. I really like the gold and chrome color scheme on the butterfly for the mask. The varying degrees of texture on it show off every pattern her costume designer had available. I also like the floppy bits on it that make the mask feel like a full-on celebration. Considering how ornate costumes can get in Dead or Alive, you might as well go with the mindset of go big or go home, and Lisa surely is not going home anytime soon when she chooses this mask.
You were so close.
Number 2, Vega from Street Fighter, also known as Balrog in Japan. From one of the most festive masks to one of the most simple masks, Vega wears a mask that covers his whole face except his eyes, and it's just a plain white mask with a small purple symbol. You might even find some red on it, but I think that's just the blood splatter of his enemies. That comes off easily. For the most part, he chooses substance over style for the mask. He wears it for protection, not to make a fashion statement. He saves all the fashion for his alternate costumes, or when he decides to put on a shirt.
I can't make up my mind if he should be in a Harlequin romance novel or attend a masked ball with his looks. Maybe both?
As an elegant egotist, he cares about not messing up his face during a fight, so this mask serves as protection to keep his face beautiful. I'm not sure what it's made out of, but it can survive punches and kicks of all varieties without breaking, so it's trustworthy to an extent. If you hit him enough, it does fall off. I guess the least reliable thing about it is the head strap. He needs to make that thing out of titanium or something. Though his hubris can get in the way of his vanity, where he'll taunt you by taking off the mask to show you the face of your killer and indicate that he's not scared of being hit by you.
Did my beauty intoxicate you?
It worked nicely against Chun-Li that one time, didn't it? Oh, well, he tried. He also takes his mask off every once in a while to lick the blood off his metal claw, either because he's weird or because he's the only one he trusts to clean it. What can I say? The man loves his accessories, and he puts that claw to work with his various attacks, like stabbing and more stabbing.
He'd make a great landscaper with that claw. Built-in rake, he can till the land, and he doesn't have to worry about breathing in dust with that mask on.
He could also use that land to plant his roses. Besides the mask and claw, his other favorite item is the rose. All three combined for his version of artsy violence.
Ready. What an ugly rose.
Let's rapid fire some honorable mentions from series we already spoke about that were victims of the one per series rule. Jacko from Guilty Gear, T-Zoc from Garo Mark of the Wolves, Voldo and Yoshimitsu from Soul Calibur, Lee from Art of Fighting, Sub-Zero, Noob Saibot, Reptile, Ermac, Rain, Chameleon, Katana, Melina, Jade, and Cabal from Mortal Kombat, Ryu Hayabusa in Dead or Alive, El Fuerte and Ibuki from Street Fighter, and Kuminitsu Armor King and JC from Tekken. Hold on, I haven't haven't spoken about Tekken yet. Oh, that's right. That's because number 1, King from Tekken. King's mask is more than just a mask. It's a new identity. There have been 2 Kings in Tekken, and both wore an uber-realistic jaguar mask. We don't have a hint about what they look like without the mask. There is no space for either of their faces to be seen. In fact, we don't know anything about their life without the mask. In every Tekken cutscene, it shows them with the mask on, even if they're doing a mundane activity. But to be fair, when he's delivering gifts to orphans, it makes sense that he would dress in his public persona. I guess what makes this whole scenario interesting is with the mask on, they only speak in jaguar growls.
You win.
That being said, they still have subtitles conveying normal thoughts when they do their jaguar roars, and it's not played off for laughs all the time. There are some pretty serious conversations, like how one of their masters was killed. The first king was a great guy, donating to orphanages and teaching children self-defense. Later though, he became depressed after seeing the death of a child he knew, but managed to re-motivate himself to fight for the children of the world with the help of his friendly rival, Armor King. Unfortunately, this king was killed off-screen by final boss Ogre during the time skip between Tekken 2 and 3. He was replaced by an identical-looking king from Tekken 3 onwards, who was one of the orphans that the original king helped as a child, so he was honoring his legacy. The real reason they did this was to explain how King was seemingly ageless after the time skip, but it was still a sweet story. He even learned to speak Jaguar like the first king. The same Armor King was the new king's mentor, but he was suffering from an illness at this point and was killed in a bar fight by fellow wrestler Craig Marduk. While Marduk did not intend to kill Armor King, New King was incredibly hurt by this. He sought revenge, found Marduk unconscious in the hospital, realized it was wrong to go with an eye for an eye, became Marduk's tag team partner, and then the soap opera continues. We learn that Armor King had a brother who took the mantle of Armor King to seek revenge against the new king for soiling the legacy of his brother by teaming up with his killer. Since King was willing to forgive, their different moral stances on the older Armor King's death made the two kings rivals. And during this confrontation, they both spoke in Jaguar, making it a really awkward conversation for Marduk to be present during, but he seemed to get what was going on, so who am I to judge? With the second king having a bigger story and being in more games, I wish we got to see more from the first king. While the newer king still helps charities to the same extent, I enjoyed how we got to see the first king actually interact with the kids, even if it was awkward looking digitized actors with a 3D CG man. He was also the closest we ever got to seeing a king unmasked. The newer one has more variety with the advantage of being in more games with increasingly better motion capture methods, but you'll get the same defensive wrestling technique with both the new and the old king.
Oh wow, he's got moves like Jaguar. I wonder what his gym routine is. I try it.
Well, the Jaguar theme is more of a hype thing rather than what he bases his moveset on. Also, it's because his design was based on Tiger Mask, which I went into more detail on in my Wrestlers and Fighting Games video, but basically, King's like a manga character. And just like how the legacy of Tiger Mask never ends, some of King's combos never end. He just keeps adding more pain.
And those leaps. I'd never need another ladder again. Besides, I like watching him jump.
So with his moves, compassion, face coverage, and wildlife realism, King 1 and King 2 combine to be our top masked fighting game character.
My body is made of...
Now, what did you think? Who were some of your favorite incognito fighting game characters, and which mask deserves to be on display more? Who did we maybe forget? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.